Hello and welcome back to Jarrett et al. Today I'm going to be talking about CV tips and how to create your best CV. This is kind of like a universal tips, but I am going to go into like how CVs differ depending on the company that you're applying for and how you should make your CV appropriate to that and fit their requirements. So firstly, on your CV, you want to have your name as the first thing, or the thing at the top, centered and bold. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the center. On my CV, it's aligned to the right. I'm gonna go with the right. And then under that I have my address, my email, and then my phone number. Some people say not to put your address in, and that is originally people put their address on for like relocation purposes, but I have mine on there. I also originally thought that they want your address on there so that they can kind of get a judgment of like how far you live from the store, which I don't think is the most illogical. Like, I think it makes sense, but I would particularly, when I first did my CVs and I was applying to jobs that was near my house, I wanted my address on there to show that I lived really close. And actually my first job that I got, they said that one of the main reasons was because they could see that I lived very close to the store. So next is where you're going to have your profile statement. So the profile statement, I think, is probably the most important bit. Arguably, I think can be the most important bit of your CV, because that's really like your first impression. Now, I read a lot of CVs and a lot of the profile statements are very generic, like I'm kind, I'm friendly, I'm happy, I ensure the best customer service, I'm fast, and this and that. And these adjectives are great. They're not that great because I feel like it's so generic. That's how people just skip past it. And your profile statement is almost the first thing that I feel like recruiters look at. Also, contextually, I used to work on the CVs for, I think, 2 of my jobs. I used to like review the CVs that I would go through, and I review people's CVs sometimes as well. So that's where I'm talking from today. But yeah, so with profile statements, I see a lot of generic ones, and you've got all these soft adjectives. But a profile statement, the best profile statements that I've done or I've worked on have been when it's more specific to what you can do for that company. So instead of saying I'm kind and friendly and this ensures the best customer service and that, you're going to go straight in with where you're currently at and specific things about that. So basically, for example, if I'm applying for like a sales role, I'm going to say the stage that I'm at. So current university student with 3 years experience in the sales industry, blah, 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 blah. So your profile statement needs to be specific about what you've already done and just contextually put that in. So just think of this as like a blurb of yourself. If you used to write a blurb of yourself, you wouldn't just write that you're friendly and these soft adjectives. You want something more specific to actually get their eyes like, oh, okay, strong profile statement. Just remember that they've seen loads and loads of these friendly and all of these type of words, so you want yours to be more unique and specific to yourself. Another thing which I think is really important in your profile statement is to put the name of the company that you're applying for. If you can't be bothered to change the name of the company that you're applying for because you're applying for so many jobs, then that probably implies that your CV is not going to be actually that specific to the company, and it's probably not going to be that enticing, obviously depending on your experience and how you format and word your experience. But I'm just saying, I would strongly recommend put the name of the company that you're applying for in your profile statement. So just integrate it in some way. So for example, on my CV that I used to apply for Microsoft, I had current university student with 3 years experience in sales. This skill set has equipped Amber with the ability to be a great member of the team at Microsoft, or something like that, or something along those lines. Also on profile statements, I would recommend writing it in third person. Now this is a bit debatable because I know some people just write it in first, but I think the whole of your CV, or all of the CVs that I rewrite, are in third person. I feel like if it's in third person, it adds to the formality of the CV as well. So I wouldn't say I've done this, I've done that. I'd say one has da 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 da. So yeah, that's another thing, third person, but I would do that throughout. And lastly, on your profile statement, I would say to make sure it's no more than 4 or 5 lines, particularly if you've written a generic profile statement. Don't put in 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of friendly and I'm kind, because it's wasting space on your CV, for one, because your CV is limited. You can't have a 5-page long CV. And for 2, it doesn't particularly tell them much about you other than perhaps implying that you just try to fill up space. Okay, cool. So we've written our profile statement. Next, you want to move on to your experience or education. Now, the reason I say experience or education is because it does vary depending on the company that you're applying for. My most generic CV would have my experience first. I personally recommend to go straight in with your experience and then your education after. And some people say to put your education first, but what I've learned from working with recruiters is that a lot of them don't actually care about your education. It's more about your experience, because when you get into the world of work, I'm sure that to an extent, someone who might have been obtaining like a first grade with no relevant experience on their CV, where someone who's working at like a 2-1 or a 2-2, but they've got all the right things on their CV, is going to be a lot more attractive to a company. So I recommend to go straight in with your experience, unless the company has stated that they want otherwise. Some companies say that they actually want to see your education first, in which case you'd say your education, level of study and grades that you've obtained. I'm going to get into that a bit later, and then you move on to experience. But for the main part, I would go straight in with my experience. So with my experience, I'd start with my relevant experience, then I'd go into my other experience. This just makes life easier for the recruiters when they're reading, because if I can see that you've taken the time to personalize your CV specific for this company. So I could have had experience in like food and then education, and then in like, if I'm applying for a tech role, then I'm going to prioritize the tech related experience first. So what I would do is I have the subheading relevant experience, and then I'd list all the jobs that are most relevant to that. Then I have the section underneath that called other experience, and that's when I'd have like my education and my food experience, if I do choose to include that in the CV. So now that we've categorized it by relevant experience and other experience, within each of the job roles, there's certain things you want to include. You want to make sure that throughout your CV, everything is consistent. So this means that if, for example, you formatted your job roles as name of company, area, month, year, all of them need to follow that format. For example, if mine is Tesco, London, June 2019 to September 2019, it needs to say that for all of the job roles that you do. So have that same format of like you're doing like the name of the company, the area that you did it, and then the month and the year. Another thing that I mean when I say be consistent is don't just put, for Tesco, don't just put June 2019 to September 2019, but if you're listing Sainsbury's on there, right, 2019 to 2020. If you're going to do a month year format, make sure that all of it's got that month year format consistent. Another thing on the note of consistency is your fonts and your font sizes. So everything doesn't have to be the same font size throughout. So I know for example, some people want to have their name in like a bolder font or a bigger font, but what I'm saying is visually everything should be consistent. So if my name is in a big font but the main body of the text is in font size 12, then all of it should be font size 12, or there should be consistency in the areas that you decide to be a certain font size. So for example, I might have the subheading of relevant experience in font size 15, but the body of what I'm putting under relevant experience is all font size 12. So I'm saying all of the bodies should be font size 12 for each of the jobs that you detail. With the body of the words that you're including, don't be afraid to bold certain words, because it actually can help the recruiter if they're able to identify certain skills straight away. So what I'm talking about in particular is your action words. And what I mean by action words is I actually believe that each of your bullet points should start with an action word. So if it doesn't start with an action word, then it probably means that you either need to go back to the drawing board with that point and reword it in a way that shows the action, or it needs to be gone altogether. Don't just list what you did at the job, but list the actions and the impact that you had within that job. So for example, in my CV, if I've got a job role and then I've listed 5 bullet points underneath it, each of them start with maintained, created, assisted, increased, presented. These are what your action words are, and by starting each of your sentences with this, it gives the reader a strong impression of what value you've actually added to the work that you've done. Instead of going in at daily activities included, mopping, sweeping, action words is what you actually done, and it just gives a stronger impression of what you've actually done. One of the most important things to have in your CV is numbers. Now the reason why is naturally our eyes, when we're reading a document, naturally goes towards numbers, and also that is a good way to reflect the impact that you've had and the influence that you've had in whatever job role that you've actually had. So for example, if you've been involved in an event, if you volunteered for an event, you want to say that you helped with the preparation of an event that had over 500 attendees, 20 of which this, that. So you would have less descriptive and more numerical data. But just add numbers in wherever you can. Not even wherever you can. I just think add them in as much as possible, because there's probably, with most things that you do in life, there's probably a number that can be attached to it. So just make sure that you're getting that in there as well. Education. So yeah, as I stated earlier, my CV goes from experience to education, but the only time that I put education at the top is if the company that I'm applying for have specifically asked to see your education at the top of your CV. How I personally format my education is I put where I study, the area of it, and the year of study that I'm at. So mine might be the name of the university in the UK, for example, and second year of studies or third year of studies, just so that they can get an idea of where you're currently at. Particularly if you're applying for internships, you want to make sure you've got second year of studies, because I know that, I'm not sure if all internships are like this, but I believe that internships are only looking for people in their penultimate years of studies. So you want to put in there that you're in your second year or your first year of studies, so that they know that you fit their criteria. You also want to have the current grade that you're working at if you're still in that education, and you also want to have the expected year that you'll graduate or you'll finish that level of education. If you're talking about previous education, then you want to have the year that you started and the year that you ended, or month and year you started, month and year you ended, depending on the format that you adopted earlier on in your CV. So again, linking back to the consistency thing, if early in your CV you talked about month, year, when you're doing it here, you also want to include the month and the year that you ended that level of education. If you're now at an age where you're past your GCSEs and you're looking forward and you've done like other levels of education, but after that, your GCSEs you can actually summarize. You don't need to have like, I got an A star in English, I got a A star in maths, I got an A star in Spanish, I got an A star in history, I got an A star, because that's taking up space and they're not really interested in that much depth unless it's appropriate to the company that you're applying for. Now, what I mean about this is if I'm applying for like a Spanish placement, then I will want to put that I got an A star in Spanish GCSE. I didn't get an A star in my Spanish GCSE, by the way. I'm just saying for example. You want to explicitly state that. However, if it's just a generic job role that's not looking for specific grades and specific subjects, then you can summarize that. So on my CV, it just says like 9 A stars to C GCSEs, including English and maths or something like that. For your A levels, you can also kind of summarize them. A levels, because there's less subjects, you can put the grades that you got if you want. So for example, on my CV, it will say A level, and then it'll have business studies, and in the brackets the grade, psychology in the brackets the grade, and whatever the other subject I did in brackets. But for my GCSE, I just summarize that as 9 A stars to C and keep it moving. Then you have your volunteering slash, that volunteering sort of section, right? So with my volunteering section, I don't have anything on my volunteering section, and this is why it's important to volunteer or to get experience to some extent, because I do feel like the reason why I have been successful in the past is from the jobs that I have had. They're not particularly relevant jobs to an extent, but it's the way that you word it on your CV, and again linking back to the numbers that you're able to put on there. But in terms of volunteering experience, if you're a female, for example, you might be a part of the Women into Tech community at Microsoft. That is something that you want to put on your CV. So you want to say that you well, it's not really volunteering because it's community, but just the things around it. And this is kind of the less like this area of the CV is kind of underrated, I feel like, but it can be important, because I know people that have got internships at Microsoft based on the volunteering that they did, and it's a good thing because it shows that you're like a nice person, that you're willing to work for free. And I'm not saying they're gonna hire you and want you to work for free, but it shows that you have that genuine side. So definitely do try and get volunteering experience. If you don't know how to get volunteering experience, I'm not the best person to advise because I don't have it myself, but I do know, having spoken to someone, that they literally went into charity shop and said, I'd like to volunteer here. Boom, bam, you've got a bit of volunteering on your CV. Also at university, I think this is the best time to get like volunteering experience. Like there's loads of things to get involved with at university, which I didn't know about. Just because of my university experience, I wasn't that involved with like the whole university, it's like extracurricular activity side to things. So what I would recommend if you're at your earlier stages at university or just in university in general, do like take up mentoring opportunities if you can be a mentor to someone else. That's a really good thing to have in your CV because it shows that you was able to advise and help other people. So these are the type of skills that a lot of employers are looking for. They want people that are willing to help others, so that's a great thing to have in your CV. But yeah, definitely do get in contact with your university and find out opportunities that you can help to volunteer. A lot of people do say to me that, oh, my CV is not really good because I don't really have much experience. But if you're in like university, do take advantage of that opportunity, because even if you can't say that you have full-time jobs on there, you are in a better position to say that you've worked for free and volunteered with things than to have nothing at all. And I've also had people say that they don't have good CVs, but they have really good things on there. It's just the way that you word it. For your skills section, the last two sections, like volunteering and skills, if you don't have anything like strong to say, it's optional, you might not want to put it on there. But for your skill side of things, this is where you can kind of show a bit of your personality in these two sections. So in your skills, if you know how to speak other languages, have that on your CV. That's a big flex. If you know how to use Excel, have it on there on your CV. If you have like other certifications, so like if you like got just different certifications, I know loads of people have different certifications, different things, have that on there. These are the sort of things that you also want to be including, because where you might think that your CV is not as strong in the experience side, your volunteering or the things that you've learned and got the ability to do from other experiences can also add value to you as a potential candidate. Then the last section is references. I've just taken references off my CV now. I think I used to have that when I was younger, just as a space filler, to be honest, but I would literally say references available upon request, but I just take that out now because if they want a reference, they will request it. But yeah, I don't have that on there. If you want to put it on there, again, it's up to you, it's your CV. But yeah, a lot of people, as I was saying before, say that their CV's not good, but a lot of CVs are actually good, but you just need to go back in on all of your points. Make sure you've got your action words, make sure that the format's nice, clean, clear, and like consistent. Clean, clear, consistent. Clean, clear, consistent. Let's go with that. So yeah, the 3 C's of the CV is clean, clear, and consistent. Make sure that your CV does all of those things, and make sure that you're using whatever experience or volunteering experience, but word it in a way that shows your impact. Don't just talk about what the company did, what the company's about. Do what you did and what you added to that company, because that's what they want to see. They want to see if you was able to take something small and have your big impact, or even if you didn't have a big impact, but they just want to know what you did in that bigger picture. That's what recruiters are looking for, and that's what stands you out, and that's what makes you interesting. That's what gets you your follow-up email or call. But yeah, the biggest thing I would say is to make sure you have your numbers and figures in there, because it is a lot easier to identify key points by this. I hope that was useful. I hope that can help people get jobs. If it does, congratulations. This is the year. This could be your year, and a lot of the time people are a lot more valuable than they think. It's just the way that things are on their CV may not be in the most clean, clear, and consistent way. Can't make this up. Thank you for watching. If you want more like CV networking things, let me know. If there's something that I missed out, do feel free to ask me in the comments and I'll try and explain it to the best of my ability. I'm not a recruiter, however I have worked with the CV departments from previous workplaces, and I have like spoken to a lot of recruiters in terms of what they've looked for in CVs. So this is just what I've learned. Be sure to follow me on my Jarrett Attal Instagram. Subscribe as well. Don't forget to subscribe, because I think a lot of people forget to subscribe for some reason. I'll be looking at my analytics and it's like 75% are not even subscribed, guys, and it's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? So yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe for more educational and hopefully helpful content. Thank you for watching. See ya.